Dr. Sharon Schutz, and I'm here today with Woody Wallace, our sheriff, and we have a lot to talk about. He's been doing we've been doing a lot of budget talks, and there's been a lot of talk about budgets and about salary and whatever. So I want to sit down with Woody today and talk about what he needs and talk about what he's doing. But before we do, I wanted to talk a little bit about, we'll do another interview later and get into some other areas, but I want to talk about your family a little bit. I met your wife not too long ago, but I hadn't had much of a chance to visit with her and whatever, but I'd like to know a little bit about your family.
Well, I've got Michelle and I have been married going on 20 years now. We got 4 kids. 2 of them are grown. One of them's in college. One of them's got a job. The other one's in the Navy. And then we got 3 that are still in school. Abby's a senior this year. So we've all our life we've always bought and sold businesses. This is really the first time I've ever just had a full-time tie-you-down job. And but there's pretty simple life. There's not a whole lot to know.
Now she works in Madisonville?
She's one of them. She's a manager over the gift section, the gift department at Buc-ee's in Madison.
Yeah, that's one of our favorite places to go. My daughter and son-in-law, that's where they go on date night. Okay, and you have been sheriff now for 3 years, or going on your 3rd year.
That's correct.
And you've done a lot of neat things in this county. I've heard a whole lot of things. I wasn't involved in the political thing until 2 or 3 years ago. We've lived in Trinity now for about 8 years, and we were involved in church and whatever. But as far as knowing the political area and things going on, we haven't. But it's been amazing getting involved and meeting you guys and seeing just what you guys are doing and what you're made of. Tell me about how the county was before you stepped into office, as far as the sheriff department. I never met the previous sheriff before you, but tell us about what was going on then.
Well, my vision of a sheriff department is somebody that's very proactive, somebody gets out and work. I beat the incumbent in the last election, and basically because my philosophy on law enforcement was to get out there and actually do something. We ended up, the sheriff department to me was not near as active. The one before me wasn't near as active as it should have been. I believe we had a void in law enforcement. They had a different approach to investigations. They weren't really being followed up on. And I saw that lack when I was constable before I took the sheriff's position. I was a constable, and my phone was constantly ringing about, please come help us, no one else will. So it got to the point to where I was doing way more work than what was required of a constable. And so I decided at that point in time that I had really no desire to run, but at that point in time, if I was going to do the job, I might as well be doing the job under the correct title. And so that's when I decided to run for sheriff, and ultimately we won.
Right. And since you've been sheriff, you've made a lot of changes. I understand that you've put some new programs in, and
we made a lot of changes. The first thing that we started doing right off the box was we started a trustee program, because we don't have a jail. We have 7 beds in an old building that was built in 1933, and so to utilize that, we started picking out 7 guys that qualified to be trustees, and we put them in our jail, and we would use them on the road crew, doing maintenance around the courthouse and the jail, because it had a lot of maintenance that needed to be done. And those guys, like I said, they become trustees. They work 6 days a week, and they go to church on Sundays. And they are involved in a lot of programs helping people. They go volunteer a lot of time over at the Senior Citizen Center, over at the food bank. So, so that program is, we're trying to get the inmates or the trustees, we're trying to teach them things. We're teaching them about how to get along in society, how to get by without stealing, how to stay off of drugs, and to interact with people that don't do these things, so they're not as prone to go back to them. And we've been pretty successful with that so far, and that's saved the county a lot of money by doing this trustee program.
How has it saved money?
Well, first of all, you had 7 beds that weren't being used. and you multiply, it costs about $1,000 a month to keep an inmate. So the jail, well, it was empty when I took office, there was nobody in it. And we pulled 7 inmates back. Well, that's $7,000 a month right there, right off the bat, that you're saving in money just by keeping 7 people here. And actually, it was $40 a day when I took office. I negotiated with the sheriff over in I negotiated with the sheriff in Houston County to reduce that rate. We bought a van for $14,000, a used van, and we put the sheriff department on the side of it, and we started using that to do our own transports. And we figured that saved us, that paid for itself in 3 months in savings that we were by reducing the amount from $40 to $32, or correction, $38 to $32 in 1 day's keep of an inmate.
And what about the farming? I know you grow the vegetables and.
Well, another effort to keep the jail costs down is we decided that we're going to start growing our own food. We started using the bank property and the property down at the Y to start a garden, and that was very successful the first year. This year was a little difficult because of all the rains and then the heat, so we didn't really get a good garden. But last year we got a good garden. We took all of the excess vegetables, what we couldn't freeze, and we canned them. So we taught them how to can. I make them make their own bread, so they have to basically do everything. I mean, we don't buy them much of anything. I might buy them sugar, salt, flour, the basic stuff. But other than that, vegetables and the meat, they're going to start producing that on their own. And the vegetables, like I said, we've done really good. We're going to build us a greenhouse. We were able to, we seized 5 acres from a known drug dealer, a local drug dealer. We seized the 5 acres, and we're in the process of transforming that into a farm, and maybe put a greenhouse on it. We've got chickens. We're getting a couple dozen eggs a day now, so we're not having to buy eggs. And we're going to continue to raise other chickens for meat. And also we got rabbits and we got pigs, and we're just going to turn that into where that jail, that 7-man jail, basically should be self-sufficient on food within the next 6 months.
Nice. That's awesome.
Other things that we did as far as trying to save a little money for the county is we took the maintenance of vehicles. Maintaining vehicles is very expensive, especially when you're using outside sources. Now, there's some things we're not able to do, but through one of our jailers who is kind of a maintenance guy, and he knows a whole lot about mechanicing, we're able to take inmates to change the oil, rotate the tires, do basic maintenance that saves a lot of money in the long run and actually makes the cars run better, and it keeps any kind of major breakdowns from happening. That saved us, I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars. So you have to look at all the things that we put together. When I first took office, we had a plumbing issue in the jail. That plumbing issue, we got bids. They were coming in for anywhere between $8,000 and $10,000. We had an inmate in the jail that said, "Hey, I'm a mechanic. I'm a master plumber." I said, I'm a master plumber. I can fix these issues for you. So he went and figured out how many parts we needed. And we think we fixed this $8,000 problem for about $1,200 in parts. So things like that. We had to build a fire escape to stay in compliance with the jail standards. The building was built in 1933. It did not have a fire escape. The fire marshal come in and said, we have not required y'all to do this in the past, but now we're requiring it. So we had to build a fire escape, and that would have cost us several $1,000s, and we were able to do it just for materials alone because all we had to do was buy the materials, and we had an inmate in jail at the time who was an expert welder and did a wonderful job. And it looks great, and it blends in with the building, and now we have a fire escape, which allowed us to continue to operate this jail a little while longer until they decide that they don't want us to operate it anymore.
And now the inmates that you're using for this work is trustees.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you know, do you just go ask them, can you do this work, or how do you?
Well, a lot of them we know.
Uh-huh.
We know who they are. You got to understand, these aren't just hardened criminals. These guys, they got into drugs, they got to stealing from the drugs. But when you get them clean off the dope for 3 or 4 days, you find out really that they're actually really good people, they're really hard workers, and they're not near what they are when they're clean. I mean, when they're clean, they're pretty good people. And they're hard workers, and they've done us a really good job. And we'll ask them, what can you do if we don't know them? And a lot of them tell you, I'm a mechanic, I'm a diesel mechanic, I'm a welder by trade, I'm a plumber. And when we have issues like this, we use them. We've got one guy that is an expert cabinet maker in jail right now. And he's done a lot of things for us as far as making some cabinets for us and fixing up some of the old stuff that needs to be fixed up. So
That's smart.
it's, you know, we use their skills that they have, and then we try to teach them a little more before they leave. Now, we teach them how to cook, we teach them how to take care of themselves, we teach them how to grow a garden. So when they get out, maybe they won't have to steal for food or anything else. They can grow a garden. And when you have that sense of accomplishment during the day, and you teach them how to go to bed at a decent time, get up at a decent time, eat properly,
Right.
stay off the drugs and the alcohol, then you feel better about yourself and you don't tend to get depressed, which leads them to getting on the drugs. So, and I can see the revolving door for inmates has slowed way down. We don't have near as many of them coming back.
Nice.
We've been very fortunate with that. But when you talk about how much true savings that we've done since we've taken office and we've worked with the police department, Trinity, and with the district attorney's office, the year before we took office, the county was in debt or had to borrow $500 and close to $50,000 just to pay the bills before the end of the fiscal year. And that was the year before we took office. Now, when we come into office, 3 months of the fiscal year were already gone, so we had 9 months to work with. Well, we started putting our programs into place, negotiating prices for the jail, and that year we didn't borrow but a little over $300,000. Then the next year comes along, we continued our same programs, we continued trimming off here and trimming off there, and we were able to get it down to where the county borrowed no money. This year, we're being told, but the fiscal year's not over with, that we should be somewhere around in excess of $300,000 in surplus. So when you go from borrowing $500,000 a year to you have money left over, you can see that's probably close to $1 million in savings.
Right.
And it doesn't, 4 years at $300,000, which is what we were going over the budget. The previous administration was going over the budget just in the jail alone. That right there is $1.2 million. And when you quit from doing that, you saved $1.2 million.
It's a big difference.
That's a huge difference, and it's a big deal to the taxpayers. So all I've asked is for them to come back, take a little of that $1.2 million we've saved, not a bunch, a small amount, throw it back at the people, myself included, and let's get morale, keep it up, and keep doing this. Because once you lose morale, it can everything you've built, everything you've accomplished, and I haven't done it by myself, I've done it with a lot of great people, but everything I've accomplished, it can go away really quick, really quick, and we don't want that to happen. So all I ask is for the people to be taken care of, and let's continue to build this and go forward, and let's not go back.
Right. Okay, auction. You were telling me about the auction that you and Benny Shiro do together.
Yes.
And did this last year. Tell me about that.
Well, the good thing, part of the sheriff's job is to have a sheriff's sale. We take in a lot of the properties, the delinquent tax properties, when the attorneys are through, people are not paying tax taxes anymore, they abandon properties. I have to sell these properties on the courthouse steps. Well, I decided, if you're going to be an auctioneer and you got to auction off properties, you might as well do it right. So I went to auctioneer school and got my auctioneer's license. And of course, I don't have to have one as sheriff, but I wanted to do the job right. I learned a little bit about marketing, how to do an auction properly. So we started doing our sales that way. And then as sheriff, you seize properties all the time. You recover a lot of stolen property that people either don't claim or the insurance company's already paid off on it and they don't want it. So when that stuff gets awarded to the county, we can sell these things and we can use that money in our seizure fund to buy things the department needs. And so we were able to throw an auction together, our first one, which was held last year, and we raised about $20,000 in just basically stuff that is just junk, but people still buy it. And there was tools, miscellaneous deer feeders and stuff like that, things that had to be fixed, but people still bought stuff. And that money we can put together very well and utilize it very well. We've had several other seizures, but the stuff that we seized last time was, like I said, was we raised about $20,000 in that auction. And in the previous, you had to pay another auction company to do it, which is good for that auction company and it's good for business for some, in the community. But I'm talking about taxpayers' dollars here.
Right.
So my goal is to save as much as I can because that money is money that I can use for my officers. And instead of paying 15% of that money or 10% of that money to a company, why not, that's $2,000. Why not use that ourselves? And that's what we did. So we're able to, me do the auctioneering, and Benny's staff and my staff, we put this thing together and we can do this. And we're going to have many more auctions in the future, as you will see in the future that's coming up. And it's going to be a great thing.
Cool. Okay, Facebook media.
A very big and an open office. I want everybody to know what we're doing. Nothing gets hid. So I used Facebook as when I was constable to, every time we made an arrest. It's come with some controversy, but most people like it. A huge majority of the people like it.
I like it.
Yeah. You basically get to see who gets arrested for what. Now, that's not necessarily to embarrass anybody. That's not what we're trying to do.
Right.
But we want, first of all, it's open record. We want the people to see who's getting arrested, what your neighbor's doing if it's them, how to protect yourself, and why you should protect yourself. So Facebook has been a very good tool as far as letting people know who and what's doing and who's doing what. But we can also get out emergency alerts too, or scam alerts, or when you have a fire danger alert, or a fireman in the county. We're able to put all that stuff out on social media, and everybody. It's the quickest way to communicate with people. We also have a Nixle program, which will send out immediate alerts to people's cell phone, their text, or an email. But it also feeds to Facebook as well. So anybody that don't have signed the Nixle will see the Nixle on their Facebook page if they subscribe to our Facebook page. And it's been very successful, and people seem to really love the fact that they can keep up with what we're doing. And of course, we use it to our benefit in investigations as well.
I enjoy it. I've seen a few people I've known, and it's really interesting sometimes seeing people that I've seen around town and whatever. But
I've actually had people come back that we've arrested and we put their face on Facebook, and they've been using methamphetamines or other drugs. And when they've been in jail for 2 or 3 months and they cleaned up and they get out and they look at the picture and they go, wow.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? I've seen a lot of those pictures.
This was me. And that opened some of their eyes up. They said, I don't want to be that person anymore. So, whereas some people says, oh, you're just humiliated, and sometimes that's an eye-opening experience.
Absolutely.
Especially for the family when they see, this is my child, this is my cousin, or this is my mom or dad. And then sometimes people realize, you know what, it's time for us to do something to help these people.
And I was talking to Benny Shiro earlier about you guys working together on saving a lot in having the people move through the system faster.
Right. Well, that comes with us working together.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have someone that breaks breaks the law, it's kind of a long process to get them into court.
Right.
And the first and foremost is you've got to have officers that are doing their job, doing detailed reports. And that report's got to get to the district attorney quickly, because until he gets that report, until he gets that offense report, this case is just sitting there. And in the past, cases weren't making it to the DA's office for months. We kind of have a policy now, and Benny works real well with this, is when someone's arrested and that case is finished, we try to get that to him within 30 days. A lot of times it's sooner. And then as soon as we get it to him, then he can start to work, figure out, does this person need to be on probation? Does this person need to be in prison? Or does this person need some sort of rehab? And with us being able to do that quickly, we communicate very well. We know what's going to court. We know who's going to court. We know how many times they've been in trouble in the past. And we sit down and he kind of makes the decision what he's going to do with them at this point, and we get it done. And when someone is sitting in jail for 6 months versus 3 months, you've saved $3,000
Right.
until you got that person in TDC or to a program where they can get some help.
The other day, I was at a restaurant, and I had somebody talk to me and tell me that you were wanting a raise, a big raise. And I was like, no, I hadn't heard. And it is a big raise. Can you tell us about that? There's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of miscommunication. I talked to the judge this morning. He was telling me that since you've been in office that you have saved, $500,000, and he thinks it's great. And, this one has got problems with it. They think you're a great sheriff and that you're doing a great job, but, they don't see you needing a big raise. Tell us about the raise and tell us why what you think about it and where you're at with it.
Well, we can go back to some of the programs we started. Mm-hmm. When you take on all these new projects that aren't really required of the sheriff, you know, you're working harder. You're working longer hours. You're under more stress. The sheriff department is the biggest budgeted department. It's with over $1 million. It runs 365 days a year, regardless of the weather, regardless of holidays, regardless of your birthday. We're always on. We're always open. So it never ends. I've got the most employees to run, and you know we've got better than 20 employees that works for the sheriff's department. So when you look at it, you think, well, 20,000 is a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but when you put it on top of nothing, then you might have a little bit.
And what do you make now?
Well, the current salary for sheriff is $35,000.
Which is about the amount for a new teacher in any other county.
Well, I would figure teachers would get paid more. If they don't, they're grossly underpaid.
Yeah.
But you know, $35,000 is really not a lot of money today. It's almost poverty level. And if you want good people to come in here and run for this job in the future, you've got to pay better. Otherwise, no one's going to take the job that really wants to do the job. They're going to take it as a supplement to their retirement. And we've been there, and we don't want to do that again because it's cost the county a lot of money. And when you go back into how much money we've talked about saving the county, the year before I took office, the county borrowed a little over $500, about $550,000, somewhere in that area. That was the year before I took office. The next year come along, we didn't take office until 3 months into the budget, so we had 9 months. We started cleaning up right then, cutting back the fat, doing things we didn't need to do. We don't allow the overtime to grow like it did. And we were able to borrow a little over $300,000 that year. Okay, that was the first year in office. The second year in office, we borrowed nothing. The county didn't have to borrow a dime. This year we come into it, and now we have a surplus of what I mean, total $300,000 to $400,000. Most of that can be attributed strictly to how the jail's been managed and how I work with this attorney. Now, we also have to take into consideration that the police department in Trinity works really well with us on keeping our inmates over there. When we first arrest somebody, they go to Trinity PD, to their holding facility, to be magistrated, which is a good 24 to 48 hours that they're there. Now, had we had to take them people straight to Houston County, you're looking at 48 hours, you're looking at $64 every time we do that. But we don't have to do that because we keep them there. And then from there, if they don't bond out, then they go to Houston County. So all of that together has saved us to now we are in a surplus instead of borrowing money every year. Okay? So now it's time to start looking at where these savings come from and getting these people where they got to go. And it's just not me. It's my whole department. The whole department needs a raise. These guys are working for less than $30,000 a year out there protecting you, me, and everybody else, risking their life, working odd hours when nobody else does. And it's time to say thank you. Now, last year, whenever I asked for a raise for my department, I was declined. Basically, on the assumption, the county auditor stood up and told the commissioner's court that it did not seem right for employees of the county to make close to what county officials make. Well, at $35,000, if my officers are sitting at 29, and they don't want to go no further than that because they don't want them close to elected officials, then it's time to raise the elected officials up so you can start paying the employees more. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So don't use that excuse that you can't pay the employees because the county officials don't make enough, and then don't raise the county officials where you can raise employees.
And the county officials, many of them have car allowances and whatever. Does that figure into their salaries, or are you talking dollars and cents with
No,
positions?
several departments have their own car allowance, and I don't know exactly what they are. And I think 3 of the commissioners get $18,000 a year, which I have no problem with, but it's treated like a salary. Okay, retirement's taken out of it. They pay retirement on it, so their retirement's going to be bigger than everybody else, and they want to say our salaries are the same. Well, if you look at the line item, it is the same. But when you go through and you look at car allowance, it's not the same. And then you look back at me when you have a county truck. Well, that county truck is an emergency vehicle. Okay, it's got to have emergency type insurance on it. It's got to have, it's got to be maintained because it'll go at high rates of speed. A lot of times going to backup officers. So it's not a regular truck that's going to run up and down the road. So it's a police vehicle. And when it was thrown back at me, how about you take the same car allowance than we do? That wouldn't be very fair because it's going to cost me a lot more to operate a vehicle countywide where it is a commissioner for a quarter of a county. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So that doesn't even seem right. My insurance is gonna be higher, my fuel rate's gonna be higher, the more mileage on my vehicle is gonna be higher, because I gotta go all over the county. versus
And right
my
now,
business.
your vehicle and everything is coming out of the sheriff budget, the total,
The
or?
particular vehicle that I drive now was a vehicle that was awarded to us by Temple. I applied for a grant, we received the grant, they bought us the truck. So the truck I drive now costs the county nothing.
Right.
And they have promised us in the future, because Temple has come to me and said, we love what you're doing in Trinity County. We have a vested interest in Trinity County. You can expect to see more money for us in the future. Apply again soon. And right now, they're currently looking at 2 vehicles for us, one a K-9 unit and a county work truck to do the work program for the inmates. And hopefully we'll know about that. They said the board will be meeting in September to see if we qualify for one of those.
Right.
Another thing you talked about was some of the programs we did. We started our own dog kennel, which saves the county a tremendous amount of money. A lot of people are just dumping dogs all over the county. And when we take these dogs in, the previous administration was taking an officer and driving that dog all the way to Walker County, dropping them off, having to pay a $35 to $50 fee, and then driving back. So you're paying an officer to drive over there after he catches the dog, to drop the dog off, and then drive back. So you're costing probably somewhere between $50 and $75 per animal.
It seems like it'd be more than that, because you got the salaried officer
But it may be.
and the, the,
It could run as
Fuel
close to
and
high.
all kinds
You know,
of
it
stuff.
could run, but if you take 2 or 3 dogs at a time, we could probably say an average of $75 an animal. Well, what we ended up having to do, we had to get state regulated, we had to get a state license to put in a kennel. We put in the kennel, and for the most part, we're able to adopt out a lot of the dogs. We use Paul's and Trinity there. Terry Waller and his wife have been real great working with us. Dogs that look like they're adoptable, they're not diseased, and that look like they've got a lot of life left in them, and that people's going to take care of this dog. We do our best to get these dogs placed. But if we can't, unfortunately, we have to euthanize the animal. We can do that a lot more humanely than taking them over to some of these other places where they take them into a kill shelter. But we're licensed to do it, and we do it. But and it costs about $5 an animal, whereas we were having to pay $35 to $40. Thousands of dollars saved there just the first year. But our goal is to adopt out as many dogs as we can, and it's been real great. That's saved us a lot. Some of the other things that we've done is when I took office, that we tried our best to hire within the county. The previous administration had officers living as far as 100 miles away. They were driving county vehicles back and forth. Imagine the amount of gas and the amount of cost that you have in that. Now, it's not 100% guaranteed that we're going to be able to hire officers for the amount of money we pay them that live in this county. We have some that live in neighboring counties, but they do not drive the patrol cars home. They're hired knowing if you live in the county, when you're working your schedule, you can take it home and back. But if you live outside the county, you have to leave the car here, which saves us a lot of money. The overtime issues, when an officer works over a little bit, then before he comes in on his next shift, we'll normally let him come in late to offset that. And that works out really well to keep our overtime down as low as it can. I think we had to write over $100,000 in overtime checks whenever I took office. And that's just pure mismanagement. And there's no reason it should ever happen. So we do our best to keep everybody happy. We do our best to let everybody get off when they need off, and still cover the county as well as it needs to be covered. Because most of the time we have 3 officers on, which in the past there were times where you didn't. There was a lot of times you may have 1 officer on the entire shift. You don't need 5 people sitting in an office all day Monday through Friday in a sheriff's office this small. So I've lowered the amount of management in the office. We have myself and a chief and an investigator, and everybody else is on patrol. And they're out working. And of course, I act as an investigator. The chief acts as an investigator, and the investigator. So there's 3 of us that do investigations, and we're really good at it. I'll go as far as to say we have. If we get on something really quick, we normally get the person that did the crime, and they're brought to justice really quick.
awesome. You're one of those people that walk into a situation when you're in control of it and make it better than you found it.
Well, I learned that because my whole career has been buying businesses that weren't doing so well,
Right.
and building them up and selling them for a profit. That's what I've been good at. And I looked at this the same way. You go in there, you take what you've got, and it's been mismanaged, or quite frankly, people just get tired and don't care no more, and they just let it go. And you take it and you work with it and you figure out what's got to be fixed, you fix it, and then you start fine tuning it, and you run it just like you do a business. Okay, and that's what I do. And but I've got to be able to pay people well. I got to be able to keep people, and that's another thing you got to understand is if you have a lot of people coming and going, you hire them, you train them, and they leave. You hire them and train them, and you leave. That right there probably costs you $5 or $10 an hour. So if you just go ahead and pay these people well so they won't leave, I'm not saying you're going to keep everybody, but if you pay them a little better, the likelihood of them leaving is going to keep your overtime down, because when someone quits, you got to fill that position. And if you don't have somebody trained to take that position, now you're taking people off their shift to work over to fill that spot. Thus, you're building up overtime.
I remember when we talked before, you were talking about you train a person, 16 months they're here, and then they wind up going to another county
For more money.
for more money, and it's ridiculous to train someone and then prepare them for someone else to have a great employee, and us have to go back to train and wind up costing us money in the long run.
Exactly.
If you and you discussed, we discussed the car allowance. I know that was mentioned as a possibility, and the $18,000 car allowance, and obviously that doesn't seem like it would work. Another option that was discussed at the last meeting was a $5,000 a year incremental raise over the next 4 years, and it was, everybody seemed to think that was a good idea. There was one point when it was said that, we can agree to it today, but we can't be sure it'll be in agreement next year. And then it seems like there should be some way that if it's agreed on today, in this budget hearings, in this budget workshops, and it goes before the community and it becomes the budget, and it's, it should be in concrete. Is there any way that could, that could happen?
I don't think so, because you may have another commissioner next year, and he may not want to stick to that same agreement. Who knows? But a good business doesn't work that way.
Right.
A good business, you pay your people well, and if they continue to do better, they continue to save you money, or they continue to make you money, you invest back into them somehow.
Right.
You have to keep morale up. I have to keep morale up at my department. And the best way to keep morale up is money for most people. That's just the way it is. If they have to worry about how they're going to feed their kids or how they're going to pay the babysitter, they're going to come to work not doing so well. And when they don't feel like coming to work, then their job performance is going to be low.
Absolutely.
So imagine the report writing when someone's got his children's or bill on his electricity bill on his mind, or his children not being able to have something that they need, and he's trying to write a report, and he doesn't do a very good job. This report goes to the district attorney's office, and it's junk. Then you got to do it all over again, and Benny can't work with it. Then you got a mess. So the more you keep people happy, the better they do their job, the better work they're going to do, the better job performance, and it ultimately is going to affect the whole county. Another thing you got to look at with law enforcement is the better your law enforcement is in your community, the better quality of lives, the better people that's going to come in, the better more people are going to invest in the community, the more people are going to build nice homes, which is your tax base. We have a lake here. We have Lake Livingston, which is our most precious asset that we have in this county that is not being utilized efficiently. We have lots of subdivisions on the lake. A lot of them were built back in the 70s and early 80s, and a lot of these properties were bought as weekend properties. The oil crashed in the 80s. When that happened, everybody abandoned these properties. So taxes aren't getting paid on them, and the properties are dilapidated. Now, imagine if you could take all these properties and build a $250,000 home on them. Your tax base is going to go way up. But are you going to come to Trinity County and build a $300,000 weekend home if every time you go home somebody breaks into it? Burglaries were so high when I took office that I believe we were working an average of 4 to 5 per week. Per week we were working.
Right.
Okay. Now, when you look at the burglaries, we haven't had, I bet you we haven't had a dozen this year. I'm talking about home invasions.
Right.
So, and I had people posting on the internet, on Facebook, whenever we first got office and before I took office, They bought a house here, it got broke into, no one did something, they lost their property, they lost guns, they lost this, they lost that. They throw up their hands, they're fed up, they say, we're leaving, we're gonna sell, we're gonna leave. I don't hear that anymore, because homes are not being broke into here like they were. And you gotta understand that has a huge economic impact on the community.
Right.
Because when people feel safe enough to build a nice house here, even if it's a weekend home, they're paying taxes on that home. So everybody wins. You have a better tax base, you have better utility, I mean, you have better infrastructure for everybody at this point. Your hospital gets stronger, your law enforcement gets stronger, your county roads get better, everything's better.
Right.
But that all stems on good law enforcement. Because no one's gonna invest in a community where their house is gonna get burned down, vandalized, or broke into every other week.
Right. We live in Westwood Shores, and for quite some time after we moved in, there was a lot of drug activity and a lot of theft, things like that. In fact, our weekend house was broken into, but we don't hear that much anymore. There's a different attitude and a different spirit.
It's slowed way down. And when you work drug dealers and they know you're working and they know there's consequences to getting caught,
Right.
they're going to slow down or they're not going to be near as prevalent. Okay? We've had drug dealers get as much as 35, 50 years in this county in the last couple of years. Okay? That's pretty serious.
Right.
And when a 50-year sentence or a 35-year sentence is handed down on a drug dealer, the rest of them go, whoa. I can't tell you how many, we communicate with the drug dealers, just kind of like, it's kind of like a game. We talk to them, they talk to us, we know what they're doing, but we have to catch them.
Right.
We have to be able to prove it in a court of law. But when they come up to you and say, you know what, you don't got to look at me no more, because I don't want to go to prison for 35 years. I got a job now. That's happened a lot. And when you catch other people that are users and they tell you, man, it's hard to find dope on the streets anymore. I'm not saying you can't, but it's a lot harder. You can't get it. It was like a pizza delivery business when I first started office. You could call up and have anything you want delivered to your house.
Yeah.
Okay? It slowed down. When you have traffic stops, most of your arrests for drug offenses and thefts are because of traffic enforcement. A lot of people don't like, well, I don't want a speeding ticket. Well, we don't give out speeding tickets to everybody we stop. But we do stop people, remind them this is the law, and I can't tell you how many times when you get into that vehicle and you look inside it, you may have stolen stuff in the back of that truck. We know it was just stolen. So guess what? We make an arrest. Or you see drug paraphernalia, and you find drug paraphernalia in the vehicle, and you make a drug arrest. A lot of times these people are wanted. Working traffic is proactive law enforcement. You have to stop cars. You don't have to give everybody a ticket, but you have to stop cars. And when you're doing that, you're making a dent in it. That keeps the drugs from going up and down the road, because they know there's a chance when I get on that highway and I'm going 10 miles to go deliver this drugs, it's a good chance I might get stopped. I'm not going to risk that. They're going to come to me to get it. And a lot of people that want drugs, they don't even have a car, because they have let their life go so far down
Right.
that they've lost everything they have and they just don't have nothing. So they steal to pay for the drugs. That's how people, most of our crime in Trinity County is just that. We have very, very little violent crime in this county. Now, if we continue to let it go like it was fixing to start turning violent. I think we have a murder in this town this county once every 3 years. That's the statistics. And we certainly, and that's way too many. But most of those are drug related.
Right.
I can't think of a murder yet that's not been drug related. Back as far as I can remember in Trinity County, as long as I've been here. But so our drug business is the drug addicts using drugs and going out to steal for their drug habit. Majority of our people are just that.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's been a big difference, and we appreciate it. I mean, having had our home broken into on a weekend when we were, on a week when we were in Houston before we moved here, we know what that's like. And we've been around a lot of the drug stuff and seen a lot of it there. And like I said, it's so much better. And you guys are doing a great job.
Sheriff Posse, you talked to us recently about that. Won't you tell us a little bit about that?
The Sheriff Posse, of course, everybody knows what a Sheriff Posse is. It's one of the oldest organizations, goes along with law enforcement and sheriff. Back in the old days, the Sheriff Posse was a group of people he could call together in a minute's notice to go fight crime or hunt somebody down. And while it's not always like that today, but a Sheriff Posse can act in a whole lot of different ways. And it's a nonprofit organization. It's separate from the sheriff's department, but there's a group of people, and we're going to reorganize the sheriff posse. And we're wanting to do a lot of good things. First of all, we're wanting to help people get their concealed handgun license. Just some of the programs that we're trying to do. We're really big into the rodeo arena down here at the Y, and we want to rebuild that arena into a nice arena, kind of like something similar to what they have in Crockett, to where our youth and our juveniles have something to do. If we can get them involved in showing animals or rodeoing, that's what we want to get them to do. We want them something to do. And rodeoing is a good thing. And if we can get this arena built, there's one down there now, but it's in horrible shape. If we could get people together, some donations and some other ways of generating money, get this arena built and have us a good place to have rodeos. And we can also rent this out. But we're also going to do things like, I'd like to do a scholarship program through it, even a scholarship that may send a kid that wants to go to the police academy. It's very expensive to go to a police academy, especially, a lot of academies, they hire you, they send you through it, but agencies like us, we can't afford to do that. So you have to go out on your own and get your own license. Through this, I would like to maybe select somebody once a year or 2 years, a young guy that wants to go and say, we'll send you, and you come back and you either work for us or somewhere in the county for a couple of years and then go on and pursue your career if that's what you choose to do. I'd like for us to be represented buying animals at the fair, supporting our youth. And I just want to create a whole lot of youth programs to it, as well as I want to have that group, what the posse used to stand for, in the event something happens, that we have people that we can call that can come out and help, basically, whether it be tracking a suspect, or if we have a natural disaster in the area and we need people to help gain control. I don't want the federal government coming in here and telling us anything.
Right.
And and if you can't control the county and you can't control chaos, that's what's going to happen. So if the people here in the county will get together and we get organized and we figure out a way in the event of an emergency that we can stand together and we can control it, then less chances we're going to have some sort of federal invasion down here saying we'll take over and we'll do it for you.
Okay, so the posse is not something that's going now.
Well, it's already active. The organization exists. It's been existing for years. It is a nonprofit corporation. But we're getting together now. We're trying to get what the memberships are going to cost and how we're trying to get our board of directors formed now, start having monthly meetings, and then we're going to open it up for membership, try to get members in there, and then we're going to branch out to get the board of directors together and let them come up with the guidelines and everything we really want to reach out and do, and who we want to support and what programs we want to participate in. What I've shared with you are just a few of my ideas,
right.
And I'm quite certain that most of these people are going to want to go along with it. But once we get organized and we get it together, we open up for members, and then at this point we have people saying, when you get ready to do this, we're going to donate large amounts of money to help you get this done. So our goal is to get it done quickly so we can start construction and maybe we can build something, for our youth here and for everybody to enjoy.
Good. That sounds like an awesome program.
It will be.
And are you going to be, I assume, you're talking about volunteers who are going to be helping in an emergency or whatever, there will be training and there will be...
Yeah, we'll get together and we'll do some sort of training, what we expect, and a lot of times, the sheriff posse in the back, in the old days, you had to have a horse. You don't,
Yeah.
but we will have a part of it, we'll be the horseback. And maybe we can get these riders to participate in our fairs like they used to. Every fair you had in the county, you had the sheriff's posse riding through it on a horseback. And I'd like to see that again.
That would be
That's
awesome.
kind of like what the old sheriff's office used to represent. That's where we want to be.
I want people to know what you're going through and what you're doing and what you're accomplishing. It's so easy to say, well, he did this and he made this better, but it's easier when you sit down and tell people.
That's true.
And they can hear it from you. They can hear it from somebody else, but they can hear it from you, and they know, then they understand and whatever. So I thank you for sitting down with me. And I hope this makes a difference. I will, be getting it up within within the next few days.
We'll look forward to it.
And thank you.
All right. Thank you.